This episode is made possible by our sponsor, Landmark College, the college for students who learn differently, offering comprehensive supports for students with ADHD and other learning differences, both on campus and online. Learn more at lcdistraction.org.
This is René Brooks, and welcome to Distraction. I'm happy to be joining you as we celebrate ADHD Awareness Month. All week, we've been talking about how ADHD impacts communities of color and how parents can support their children. We're continuing with that theme today as I'm joined again by three amazing women. Nathalie Thandiwae, a neurodiversity resource navigator for parents, Rhashida Perry-Jones, the founding coordinator of CHAD in Philadelphia, and Dr. Loucresie Rupert, a child and adult psychologist. So as you might have noticed from the previous episodes with my guests, these women are fierce advocates for their kids, as I'm sure many of you listening are too. But it's not easy, and it does take a toll on you mentally and physically. So that's where we'll pick up today's conversation. Here's Nathalie talking about the importance of finding respite.
So I think there's always us trying to support our child, but also us trying to make sure that we have what it takes to be there for him. And then also there's the piece of taking care of yourself and giving yourself the respite that you need. Our children are intense, and our commitment to them is intense. You know, I don't think any of us got this far by being kind of laissez-faire. I think we're all kind of on top of a lot of things at once. And so I think there's a lot to that. And so I used to take momcations before the pandemic, where I would just like go away by myself for, a bunch of days. But pandemic has kind of cramped my momcation style. But there's so many ways to take respite. But I also think that's an important part of the picture too, in order to be there for our children.
That was my next question. So keep going. Respite. What do y'all do for yourself?
My mom is my respite.
Yes. Miss Gloria, come on.
In fact, my mom has the kids now so that I can do this interview without y'all here screaming in the background. I'm like, so you're coming to pick them up today, right? I have to record a podcast. But yeah, I absolutely, like I said, I've struggled with parenting. And so for a little bit, my mom literally just kind of took over parenting for a couple of weeks because I just needed a break. Yeah. I was like, there's y'all are breathing and it's triggering me, which is not your fault, but it was, more my own things. Cause like I said, I have ADHD, I have other mental health diagnoses.
Right.
But this isn't going to go well. The fact that you're breathing too loud is triggering me. So Grandma, we call her Gigi. Gigi, can you step in right now so that everybody survives this?
Yeah.
But I do plan on moving down south where I have kind of more of a support system so it doesn't all fall on my mom. But right now, it's me and her. And I'm really grateful for that because I honestly don't know how I would be able to be an effective parent if I had to be a single parent parenting 24/7, really completely by myself. I'm not sure how that would work.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it was also, a family member, and friends, taking out, hanging out with my daughter, also practicing meditation daily, meditative prayer, also making sure that, I do, I love baths with milk and rose petals, and also doing detox baths. And a lot of prayer, really, really helps. Really, 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 really helps. So my daughter's now, she's 22. So it's a different kind of parenting that I do. It's more so a coaching if she wants it. Like it's still trying to take her temperature. Like, do you want, okay, not right now. All right, let me back up.
Look, when she hits those 30s, you'll see my poor mother. My mother is like, I'm always like, so Mom, what do you think? Like, she's coming back, she's gonna be like, where you think you going, Mom? Then you're gonna be like, I don't know if I feel like coaching right now. And she's gonna be like, no, come on, Mom.
Well, I'm at that point. I'm looking forward to that other point. Right now, it's just like she'll let me know, but most of the time she wants to handle things on her own. But I'm still there to support her and to say, what I may think if she's open to it. But I try to, I just try to be, very supportive of what she thinks is important and what she wants to do. And if I think it's something that could be really, really problematic, I will talk about it. But she it's up to her. She's the adult. She can do what she thinks is she needs to do.
Right.
And she largely she's a vegan, and she makes sure she gets her protein. She makes sure she gets her omega-3s, and in a plant-based way. And she does a lot of exercise, and she doesn't take any medication. And that's basically how she manages a lot of her symptoms. She's very aware of when she eats something, and if she feels like it triggers certain behaviors, certain types of emotional dysregulation. She's very, very conscious about that. And it seems to be working well for her. She got her associate's degree, and now she's working on her bachelor's.
Oh,
Yep.
congratulations to her. That's
Nice.
fantastic.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Those success stories warm my heart as a parent.
Proof positive that it is working. So, all of you do advocacy work. What got you into it? Tell the people who are listening what you do, where they can find you, and do your thing.
Sure. So I'll start. So you can find me at RhashidaPJ.com. My parents spelled my name phonetically, so it's RHASHID as in David, PJ.com. I'm also on Instagram at Rhashida, and I have a Facebook group called Parents and Caregivers of Children, of those raising children with Black and brown children with ADHD. Something like that. I got to look that up to remember what it's called.
I'm grateful for somebody who has a name that they also can't remember. The names be so long so people know
Right.
what you're doing in there that you can't always remember the order of the name.
Parents and Caregivers of Brown Children with ADHD. I think that's it. But you can find me there. And I just really believe in advocacy work. It's funny, Philadelphia is a huge town. I think it's like 50% Black. And there was no CHAD here. When I was trying to get information, I had to go out into the counties to get support. So one of the things me and a couple other parents decided to do was to bring a CHAD, children and adults with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, to bring a support group to Philadelphia. So we meet on the third Thursday of the month. We're meeting virtually now, and it's really an opportunity for parents to learn about different types of treatments and to kind of, get together and fellowship so that, we have support in raising our children. So that's another way to advocate as well.
Wonderful. This is Natalie Tandiway, and I am a neurodiversity resource navigator. And a lot of times, actually, people come to me by word of mouth. I've helped another parent they know of, or a doctor has told them about me. And I support parents in orienting them on their parent journey, what the road ahead of them will look like, and what they will need to do in terms of education, healthcare, higher ed, all of those things. And then also, I think the part we don't talk about is what parents need to do for themselves in order to do the work ahead, kind of like the inner work. And so you can email me at ndexpertsinfo@gmail.com. That's N like neuro, D like diversity, expertsinfo@gmail.com.
Hi, so this is Dr. Rupert. I think a lot of my advocacy really just started because of my job. Like, I just advocate for my patients. And I think just because of my life story, I don't know, I'm just passionate about diversity and neurodiversity in general. I run a group called Physician Women SOAR, that's for physician women. And in that group, we do raise money for different organizations. But also the main point of that group is really just to bring these type of discussions so that physicians are more intersectional. So we discuss everything, but it's really a way for physicians to become more intersectional so that their patients are benefiting from that. The other thing is, I have Insightful Consultant LLC, which is my business, where I do speaking engagements. So I do speaking engagements on anything related to mental health and neurodiversity, and also, like I said, foster care and adoption, because I am an adoptive mom. And I try to, as an adoptive mom, my goal just in everything I do is to listen to the people that are going through things. So as an adoptive mom, I really try to speak more from what I've learned from adoptees, because that's, I'm not an adoptee, but everything else I generally have personal experience with too. So the other thing I do is I have a blog. It's www.underoneumbrella.blog. And my website for my business is www.insightfulconsultant.org. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram under One Umbrella. And yeah, so a lot of my advocacy is really not necessarily systemic. I just really like to help individual people or help physicians, or go like to places where I'm invited to speak, and just really get people to listen to the population that they need to be listened to. Because I feel like that's, how we learn. We can learn all the book stuff we want to learn, but we have to start listening to the people that are going through things, because obviously they know the struggles that they have.
I want to say how much I appreciate all of y'all, because, like, okay, listeners, everybody came into this journey having to fight, not necessarily having the resources that they needed, not necessarily knowing what they were going to need. And not only did they navigate the journey for themselves without having that access, they turned around and found a way to give that access to other people. And, I just want to commend y'all for that. Thank you. And thank you, for what you all have poured into me personally. I'm very, very grateful for all three of y'all. Oh my God, why am I getting choked up?
Oh, thank you.
We're grateful for you.
Yeah, so grateful for you, Renee.
Yes.
I'll tell you, like, it's just, this is all so, it's like a continuous circle where everyone's pouring into each other. And I'm grateful for that, because as y'all know, it's very lonely trying to navigate all of this by yourself. Like it, and everyone plays such an important role in each other's journey, especially within the world of Black neurodivergence, because it's so small. Like, I tell people all the time, my family, when I started the blog, they were like, you got a good government job. You on the internet talking about your mental health. You're going to ruin my life. And it wasn't until Dr. Loucresie Rupert met me and decided this is like the best thing ever. I'm so excited. And then I was like, so I met a Black psychiatrist, and she thinks what I'm doing is amazing. And I'm probably not going to ruin my life.
It is
So,
amazing.
since I'm not going to ruin my life, can y'all leave me alone and let me just go on and write what I need to write so I can find some more Black people? Because I'm about to lose my mind if I don't get a chance to talk to more Black people with ADHD. And somebody is out here searching for this, and I know they are. So you just need to let me pursue the vision as I see it. So, we all need each other. It's so important.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah, I recommend your blog all the time.
Thank
And
you.
I live in Minnesota and work in Wisconsin, so a lot of my patients are not Black. So I go, you should go to Black Girl Lost Keys. You don't have to be Black to benefit from it.
You'll get something out of it, right?
Because they're like, huh? Right. And I'm like, you'll still get something out of it. She's amazing.
I just recommended the blog Black Girls Lost Keys last night at a party. I was like,
my
you need to go
God.
on Black Girls Lost
Thank
Keys.
you.
It's the bomb.
It is.
I appreciate y'all. Like,
But it is so important, the way that you talk about ADHD and being a Black woman and all the other things that Black women and Black folks have to deal with. And then you bring some levity to it that is sorely needed, because for some folks it can be a very, very like heavy kind of diagnosis. And like there are a whole bunch of things and challenges that are associated with it. And the way that you talk about it and add, humor to it, it makes it a lot better for a lot of us.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Like, that's what, like, because it's funny. Like, I can't remember the group name. So people would be like, oh, what's your group name? And I'll be like,
Right.
this is the part where I'm supposed to know this, huh? I don't know what that group's named. I just go in.
Right.
Haven't had to look at the name in years. The only time I look at it is when I change it. And changing a name in a group when you got a bunch of neurodivergent people, they don't like change. Don't
Right.
change the name of your group. Once you got it, pick it well. Because when you change it,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
the end for you. And that's the other thing, right? Like, because when we're advocating, like, we're not the end all be all, and we can't do everything. So my nephew has ADHD's recently, maybe within the last year, diagnosed. And, I give his mom guidance that she didn't ask me for whenever I can. And when she was particularly frustrated, I was like, okay, so I'm going to send you to this group. So she's in there and she's learning. And she's like, I learned this and I'm trying this with him. And it's like, okay, good. Get in there and talk with parents, because that's the thing. So many Black parents feel like, I can't be in here with y'all, because we feel like we discipline our children a little bit differently. And we maybe can't take the advice in circles that come from outside of ourselves, because we discipline our children a little differently. Like, not, and I don't mean that in like a negative way at all, but there's different things that we need in order to keep our children safe. And if you're giving me skills and strategies that ignore that, then I can't take that seriously. And maybe I don't know how to adapt that for myself. So then I'm still stuck in that same spot with no help. So thank God that you put something in place. Because I don't know, the first thing I was an ADHD child. I don't know nothing about doing anything for children.
This is a group that you run, Rhashida?
Mm-hmm.
And is it online, or?
It's on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I was shaking my head when you said that, Renee, about looking at, because I sit in a lot of parent groups. And when I look at some of the advice that's given, I think, yeah, this does not sound culturally relevant.
Right.
And I always wonder about that, because I think, and I do think a lot of it has to do with the distinctions between permissive parenting and authoritative parenting and authoritarian parenting. And that I see a lot of what I would consider highly permissive parenting that doesn't focus on boundary setting,
Right.
but focuses a lot, maybe more on just relationship preservation, which I think is also a really powerful point to bring to the table. This idea of like, how do you, as you lead your children through the world, also build your connection and relationship with them? So I really appreciate that part. But sometimes I look at the screen and I'm like, okay, so the child stole everything and now you're just going to give it to her as gift.
Right.
Okay.
Like, when you see it, you're just like, we don't do that.
Yeah. I've literally, as a psychiatrist, like I've had a parent come in and is like, oh yeah, they did this and this, and so I'm buying them another iPad. I'm like, what? Can you explain this to me? I mean, because I'm like, gentle parenting, I'm fine with it, but gentle parenting is not the same as permissive parenting. I think a lot of people get that confused.
Right. They're two different things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you explain to me, with the child sitting there, why do you think they need
Right.
that? I think not, but anyway.
I found the name of the group. It is Parenting and Caring for Black and Brown Children with ADHD.
And I thought I was in every group. Okay.
I just started the group maybe about 4 months ago or something like that, I think.
Okay. I feel less bad about myself now then.
That's how you know the resources needed, when you like, okay, yeah, it hasn't been my quarterly check to see if anything exists yet.
I want to ask y'all a question though, because with all, with the diversity questions and this thing of having to make white folks feel comfortable talking about things that affect Black folks. How do you feel about that? I was just in a meeting and folks were saying, oh, it's very uncomfortable. And I said, I feel very comfortable, talking about racial disparities and racism and things that, I've experienced, my daughter has experienced. And I don't feel like we need to have groups that particularly that are helping Black folks and talking about the Black experience and constructing in a way so that other folks can necessarily feel comfortable. What's the tip on that?
I agree. It's not for their comfort.
I don't do feel comfortable. So my group, the one intersectional group I have is Physician Women SOAR. It's not my job to make anybody feel comfortable. So, I'm not. But and I say that, but what I mean when I say that is that I'm not. So if our group, the way our group is set up, if we're talking about transsexual issues,
Yes.
then the voice that is centered is transsexual people. We call it the centered voice, but generally in the world it's the disadvantaged voice, right? But in our group, it's the centered voice. So if we're talking about Black issues, Black people are the centered voice. If we're talking about Indigenous issues, Indigenous people are the centered voice. And people that are not that, and sometimes we've had to, shut Black women down. And I love Black women, but if we're having a group about Indigenous trans people and this Black person's like, well, I don't understand. No one cares that you don't understand because we're not talking about that.
Right.
We're talking about Indigenous trans people. So I'm very much of the I'm not here to make you feel comfortable. You need to listen to the people. Like I said, you need to listen to the people who are being centered, and you need to shut up and learn. That's my style. It's 3,000 people in my group, so I guess they handle it.
There was a interview I went to do with somebody once, and we were talking about what I was going to talk about, and it was the word discrimination was in whatever topic I had hashed out. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but they said to me, how can you make this more palatable for white people? Like, how do I make how do we sell that to the listener? And I said, I'm not sure what you mean. And they said, well, why don't we talk about discrimination in schools? Like, a lot of times white people are experiencing discrimination for the first time when their children are discriminated against in school. And I said to him, I don't think I will ever spend an instant of my time teaching white people how to bear up under discrimination. We will talk about something that does not have race at the top as the topic. But it was like the idea of making somebody feel comfortable with my Blackness. If you're that uncomfortable, walk away. I'm not going to de-escalate my Blackness, so to speak, to make you feel more comfortable. That's outrageous to me.
Now one thing we do, kind of, well, I guess we don't say this, but the white people say this to each other in our group, is that sometimes they might need to be nicer to each other to get each other to listen, but we don't tone police the centered group. So if you feel like you can get somebody to listen, you do what you do, but that's not on whoever the centered group is in that situation. And of course, here we're talking about Black people. That's not on us to do that, and you cannot tone police our anger. If we feel like we want to be patient, fine. If we don't, fine. And like, you just need to deal with it because that's not on us.
And that's a thing. Like, there was a friend of mine had written a piece for one of the orgs maybe a year or two ago, and she called me and she was upset because the way that it got edited was like to tone back or make it less harsh or whatever. And she was like,
Right.
they sucked everything that I wanted to say out of this. Will you publish it? And I was like, email it to me. I'm not going to edit it. You wrote it already. You know how to write. Let's get it up there. So I think that's the thing. And I like that centered voice idea, Loucresie. I'm finna steal that.
I like that too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's nice, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, good.
Well, I have to say that I actually stole it myself.
Yeah.
I stole it from the adoption community originally because adoption groups that are run by adoptees really work on centering the adoptee voice.
Okay, yeah.
And then the autistic community does that a lot, centering the autistic voice.
Right.
So I stole it, but it's really good. It's a really good concept that you center the voice that needs to be centered. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what we're talking about, in my mind, what I think about is that neurodiverse spaces about neurodivergence, they're generally not inclusive. And not only are they not inclusive, often they're not equipped or interested in being inclusive or in centering Black voices, or or having any kind of reflective critique of the bias and microaggressions and all those things that Black people may be experiencing in those spaces. And so I think there's just this like much larger thing that's happening that trickles down into what you're talking about. But I think it's like these spaces are like pre the 1940s, like in terms of diversity, inclusion. And I think that the flip side of that is that also the lack of diversity among practitioners and quote experts. So it's like a giant circle, that's like self perpetuating because there isn't this inclusiveness or diversity to begin with. And then there isn't a lot of like cultural competence on top of that. So
With that group on Facebook, I've had, white friends that I know that left the group because they didn't feel comfortable in the group. And I'm like, okay, that is fine. I'm not gonna change it. But if some of the things being said make you feel uncomfortable, it is well within your means and totally up to you if you feel like it's not a place for you.
That discomfort means something. And in fact, like, I feel like people don't understand that, like, okay, no matter how many intersections you have, there's no one who is hitting all the intersections. So when people are like, well, I can't speak, and it's like, there's plenty of times where I have to shut up too. Sometimes you just have to hush and listen and learn. And sometimes you have to hush for months at a time. And sometimes you're going to have to hush forever because you're just never going to be able to speak to that. And that's okay. You don't get an opinion on everything because sometimes it's not your place to have an opinion. It's your place to sit back,
right.
listen, observe, and support when your support is asked for, or if you see a place where you can offer support. It's not always my turn. I don't always have the talking stick, and it's not yours either.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see this change. I mean, I'm excited by seeing more Black neurodivergent spaces emerge. And I'm hoping that we'll see more Black neurodivergent clinicians really becoming more visible as well, because I think that's so important. It is so hard when you're looking for clinical support and practitioners. And it's like there's no visibility of Black folks who are doing neurodevelopmental work. And then the flip side of that is that Black folks who do this work are so in demand that often their schedules are full. They may not be taking
Yes.
new clients. So it's a small, barely visible world that parents really need made visible.
Absolutely. And you're right. There aren't, like, it's like we need to connect more so that we can turn out more experts because, there's nothing quite like feeling like you need to refer out to a different coach. And the only other coach who you can refer this person to is chock full. Of course, now that Dr. Rupert is also coaching, I don't have that problem no more because that's a thing now.
Please refer me, people.
I'm on it. So grateful for you because it's true. Like, it's sometimes you can't take a person even if you do have the space because you just don't have the skill set to help. Like, if somebody comes to me and needs coaching for their parenting, why would I waste them people's time? I just told y'all I don't know nothing about, like, I feel like Hattie McDaniels. I don't know nothing about coaching no babies. Like, I don't know. I don't know. So why would I do that? That's some, look, I'm gonna send them right to you, Loucresie, because I don't know. I'm gonna send them to you, I'm gonna send them to Rhashida, I'm gonna send them to Natalie, because that's not my wheelhouse.
Mhm.
So I just, like, I'm grateful to see more voices emerge. I'm glad that there are people who are doing things that, like, I don't feel like there's any part of my, like, I feel like my neurodivergence is just like my Blackness. There's no part of my life that being neurodivergent doesn't affect.
Right.
So we need people who are able to speak to all different facets of life, spirituality, diet, everything. And just like my neurodivergence impacts everything, so does my Blackness. So I need Black neurodivergence who can speak to that. Like, that's necessary.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and this guy was talking about they're working on the new DSM-6, but it'll be like some years before it's out. But he was talking about some of the changes, and the part he was talking about was for like autism, ADHD, bipolar and stuff. So I was like, are any neurodiverse people working on these changes? And how many Black people are working on these changes?
Wow.
And he's like, why don't you email me? So that probably meant zero. to both. But yeah, so we need to get in these spaces like the DSM. I mean, I'm not saying it meant zero. I'm just saying it probably meant zero. But you know, the DSM is the Bible, is psychiatry, and it's, you know, like our neurodiverse people helping with these changes, and
it's a hot mess.
It is. Although most psychiatrists also agree it's a hot mess. So.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you once again to Nathalie Thandiwae, Dr. Loucresie Rupert, and Rhashida Perry-Jones for joining me this week. You can learn more about my guests today by clicking their links in our show notes. Please reach out to us and let us know what you think. Record a voice memo or write an email and send it to connect@distractionpodcast.com. Distraction is created by Sounds Great Media. Our producer is Sarah Gurton. I'm René Brooks. You can find me at blackgirllostkeys.com and on Twitter at BLKGirlLostKeys. Until next time.
The episode you just heard was made possible by our sponsor, Landmark College, the college for students who learn differently, offering comprehensive supports for students with ADHD and other learning differences, both on campus and online. Learn more at lcdistraction.org.